good morning with consultation of Dave Buck and the Minnesota Milk Board and Steve Schlongen, our Minnesota Dairy Growth Alliance chair. This week, we're going to have a update on checkoff at the national and state level from Barb Liebenstein and Charles Kraus. I think Barb is going to cover Midwest Dairy and Charles is going to cover DMI. And make sure you mute your lines if you haven't yet, and you can always use *6 to open it back up. And then after that, Tom Wegner, Charles has to milk at 3, so we'll be sure to get him out of here. And then Tom Wegner is going to talk to us about milk disposal was the other thing we had for topics. I do have a policy slide, or a couple policy slides snuck in there, but of course we'll hopefully have time for Q&A as well. And then Jenna Davis has kind of a fun bright side of things to share. Barb Liebenstein, can we hear you?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can. And Charles, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome. Well, if no one else has anything, we'll get started right away, and we'll let them go at it. Thanks, Morgan, for recording this, and we'll be sure to send this out to anybody who misses the call.
All right. Well, it's good to be on board today. This is Charles Kraus talking. I farm in Buffalo, and I'm on the Midwest board, but I'm also on the DMI board at the national level. So Barb and I will be walking through the slide presentation that everyone who's logged on should be able to read. There'll be 5 different slides that we're going to be highlighting, and if you have questions along the way, just make sure to ask, interrupt, and hopefully we can get an answer to you. So the first slide that you'll see is coming up there, ensuring access to school meals. So Gen Youth, which is a 501c arm that's been started by DMI that can raise money to support child health and wellness, which is somewhat part of the Fuel Up to Play 60 program, has really ramped up their efforts to raise money, and we've raised $3 million in less than 5 days in the last week. What this money is being used for is to buy school cooler bags and crates that will cool. You can put milk in and deliver. A lot of the schools are delivering meals, and along with those meals comes milk, cheese, and yogurt, and this helps facilitate the need to refrigerate that. And we've had 8,000 applications. This is on a national basis, requesting grant dollars to be used in that effort across the country, and more come in. It changes every day. So we've had a great deal of response from that. And a lot of this money, most of this money raised, the $3 million, is not farmers' dollars, it's partners that we have that have been supportive of dairy's cause through the years of Fuel Up to Play and Gen Youth. Barb? You there, Barb?
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Yep.
Trying to follow the muted rules, but anyway, thank you all for allowing me to join in today. I hope everyone is doing well over this horrible event that's happening in our lives. I think we'll move on to the second slide and talk a little bit about helping food banks meet growing needs. Nationally, by working with dairy co-ops and companies, quick serve and food service partners, and Feeding America to broaden access to dairy foods for the growing number of people facing insecurity, the National Checkoff is convening these leaders, co-op leaders, that are trying to find a home for extra supply. And they're convening them with local processors and food banks. The effort is already diverting more than 100,000 gallons of milk per week nationally in states Texas, New Mexico, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, New York, and New England. And there will be more to come. At Midwest Dairy, we have provided, along with those coolers to the schools, we have provided 20 commercial-sized refrigerators to food pantries in rural communities across our 10-state region, helping to keep the milk cold and increased distribution of dairy foods. I think it's kind of cool that we know that this will end at some point with coronavirus, but one of the things that food shelves are in short supply of a lot of times, and what limits their ability to supply dairy foods, is cooling. So now they have coolers, and hopefully they'll be able to use those in the future as well. And there is an additional need here at Midwest Dairy to offer a second phase of food pantry outreach through a new community relief grant as part of a COVID-19 related refinement of the Undeniably Dairy Grant Program. The Undeniably Dairy Grant Program, sorry everybody. The Undeniably Dairy Grant Program is a program by which dairy farmers have been able to use funds to help support dairy and the sales of dairy products, and now we're going to refine it a little bit and make it a community relief grant so the dairy farmers can apply for those to support refrigeration needs of local food pantries. The grants help dairy farmers use funds to connect their local food pantries with much needed refrigeration, as we talked about already, to keep milk cool and during a time of increased need due to school and business closures. Already there's been 46 applications and they have been approved. Dairy farmers are also getting creative and still using the Undeniably Dairy grants to give to continue to promote dairy. There's a dairy farmer that is now doing a virtual ice cream social with daycares, nursing homes, and senior living facilities as an example. And I'm sure that we'll continue to be creative, as we don't want to see all our hard work go down the drain. Charles?
All right. So highlighting on that, the next big thing we are doing at Midwest Dairy and on the national level is working with the USDA to get donations given through the Feeding America program, partnering with supply chains across the country. USDA has approved a one-time donation of $500,000 from Midwest Dairy to purchase product. With this, we are working through suppliers in the Midwest to facilitate the purchase of product that will go to food banks across the country and across the Midwest region. And we are trying to work on partnerships that hopefully will have a catalytic effect and possibly get other people to donate money beyond what the Midwest Dairy checkoff is doing. This is a one-time exemption to what USDA has, we can't normally do things like this, but during COVID, they're allowing us to do this. The donation will be highlighted through promotion activities. And like I said, this is atypical to what USDA hasn't normally done. Currently, we are working with DFA and through KEMPS in the Midwest region. We're open to working with anyone, any of the processors that are on the line, anyone that's in the Midwest to provide product. One of the things that we are all painfully aware of is there's dumping of milk going on in the Midwest and all across the country. I had spoken with Greg Kerr this morning from KEMPS, and he said that a farmer called him yesterday and had a whole tanker load of milk, and he said, I'd be willing to donate this if you could process it and get it wherever it can go. And one of the things as farmers we don't realize is the supply chain is a lot more complicated than just here's some milk, let's bottle it and get it someplace. And that's one of the reasons why we're working through and with these partners to get milk to a place where it's refrigerated. If we were all aseptic, it wouldn't be a problem. But since we need to keep this milk refrigerated, we need to work through these chains. Currently, right now, the aseptic milk processing plants are running 24/7, so they are being utilized. But to the extent that we can move more product, they are at full capacity. Barb?
Yep. And additional efforts include, as most of you know, that we have been in partnership with other food service companies like Domino's, and Domino's is working with Gen Youth and other local organizations to come up with a grab-and-go meal program at 31 Miami-Dade County public school sites. and they're doing it 1 day a week for 5 weeks, or approximately for 23,000 meals. And they're looking for additional opportunities through other franchisees in Michigan and locations across the country to do the same sort of thing. And we expect that our other partners will continue to try and do the same thing. And hopefully that will help alleviate some of this pain. And we also continue to work with retailers to meet consumer demand. I know that, Lucas, you had a meeting with the Grocers Association and talked a little bit about these great signs that they're putting up to limit people's purchasing, and trying to convince them and tell them that we have an ample supply, and consumers in some parts of the country are experiencing challenges when it comes to purchasing the dairy foods because they have the signs up, but we have plenty of dairy products available. And I guess, Lucas, when I get done in a minute here, if you'd think about what you want to tell us about that, would be great. Midwest Dairy is currently reaching out to our state grocery reached out to our state grocery association on the recommendation of the International Dairy Food Association, and is asking the retailers to remove the signs because we have adequate supply. We've also reached out to the several state departments of agriculture regarding the retail limits, and the departments of agriculture have been helpful in the same way, trying to share our message. And we continue to stay in close contact with these retail partners. So we are regularly checking in on them. And when I say we, I have to give a lot of credit to our staff at Midwest Dairy and DMI. These folks are working tirelessly for us, trying to help us find a home for milk, trying to limit the number of stories of dumped milk. And I am so grateful that we have people that are as passionate about the dairy industry as we are. And I could not be any prouder to be part of any other organization for dairy than DMI and Midwest Dairy, just because of the passion for trying to help get through this horrible times. So with that, I guess that's what Charles and I had to say. Lucas, did you want to add anything to the conversation about your discussions with the Grocers Association?
No, I'll just say it was brief and simple. I think they're getting lots of conflicting reports from their suppliers, and the processors can maybe fill in. One of the things that's unique is, and we've had a couple questions. Yeah, I think we put up the wrong picture. The Domino's box that we had there, I've had 3 people note so far that was an animal rights image, so sorry about that. Probably just pulled from the wrong file. People mocking our Domino's label. But to carry on, the Grocers Association was simply telling us that their grocers were being limited by their suppliers, and with cream at an all-time low, hearing from Maren, the incentives are very different in the bottling category than they used to be. So the processors may know a lot more, but all I know is that the Grocers Association sent it out in at least 2 newsletters to the Grocers Association members. Signs began coming down, and I do know that our Midwest Dairy people who work in demand directly with the processors reached out to all of their accounts. So DMI has some accounts at the national level, and we at Midwest Dairy have some accounts at the regional level. So all of us working together, they were getting the message one way or another. Of course, we can't tell them what to do, but it sounds like the signs, generally speaking, are coming down. So thanks for the suggestion 2 Fridays ago.
Thanks so much, Lucas. And I guess, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The joy of a conference call. This is Charles. So some of the other things that will be coming, I think, soon from DMI, and then working through co-op suppliers. Some of the big chains, and we hope to also have a catalytic effect with Pizza This Way. We'll be announcing that they're going to add 2 ounces of cheese per pizza more, and also add stuffed crust to the same pizza. So hopefully adding 2 to 4 more ounces of cheese per pizza, and hopefully that'll be coming soon. Every week, this past week on Monday, and then the following Monday, there's the town hall call at DMI that people can call in, and we can get that information to people if they'd like to listen in and see what activities are happening at the national level with Checkoff, with Tom Gallagher and Barb O'Brien and the entire team on how they're working to do the best they can with what we can do right now in Checkoff. So that's a couple of the other things that we're working on at the national level.
And I think, if you don't mind, Lucas, if there are any questions regarding DMI or Midwest Dairy, we'd like to take those now before Charles has to get back to work. So, not that he's not working though.
Yeah, any questions? And again, it's star 6 if you got on mute to unmute yourself, but lines are open. Bob Lefebvre also wrote in the chat box, Jim Mulhern will be on the Monday call with Tom Gallagher, which they're calling open mic sessions. So if you'd like to dial in and hear that, please let us know. Any questions for Barb or Charles?
Hi, everyone. This is Dave Buck. My question to either Barb or Charles. How has it affected you from a budget standpoint? You still just moving money around to emphasize different things, or just been a budget neutral operations that you've been doing?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles.
That's a great question, Dave, and I asked the same thing. Where's this money coming from? Right now, I mean, it's just like everything else. We'll reprioritize the unified marketing plan, and the priority right now is how to deal with COVID. So money's being shifted from other parts of the budget. It's not like we're going to go over budget, but there's other things that are getting canceled and not done because of what we're doing, and so that money will be reprioritized for this effort.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again, Lucas, for the opportunity for us to talk to everybody. And if anyone has any questions, you certainly can let Charles or I know, but of course our staff at Midwest Dairy and with the leadership of our new CEO, Molly Pelzer, everyone's anxious to help in any way they can. Please let us know if there's any needs that you have. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks again. And again, this presentation came as request from one of you, and the request was specifically to hear some from our farmer board member friends. So if you have topics that we should be covering next week, please just let us know and we'll do our best to find resources. Morgan, if the policy slides were put together. Bob, do you want to cover something that was missed on the first slide?
Unless maybe Barb or Charles are still on, it's just I know Charles mentioned some of the work that's being done with DMI and Gen Youth for ensuring access to school meals. There's also some additional stuff that Midwest Dairy has been working on, and thus far we've delivered 1,600 bag coolers. If you remember that first slide that was up, there was some of these blue big bags. It's 1,650 of them across the region. So schools are able to, keep the milk cold and dairy products cold at these feeding sites. For example, like Rochester School District is one of them that got it. As an example, they got 50 bags. They have 16 bus routes and I don't know how many, feeding sites, and then also some drop-off sites, and then also some they're feeding daycare centers too. They feed about 5,000 meals a day through that. And so that was just a quick turnaround thing that we were able to make sure that with that switch, kids not eating breakfast and lunch in school, but they're still having the feeding programs. How do we get that out there? And then in addition to that, we partnered up with an online menu management tool for school nutrition directors that they can access to help make sure that they're still getting dairy in those meals to the kids.
Charles, did you have something else you were going to say?
Yeah, and we'd missed that on the first slide. So thanks for covering that, Bob. So we are trying to hit local in Minnesota and in the Midwest here, and it's not just a national scale with the food bank donations. Yeah, like Barb said, if you have any ideas or any thoughts, feel free to contact either of us, and we will pass that along. So any ideas, make sure you send them, and just keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully we'll get all through this. Thank you.
Well, thanks to both of you. Not seeing or hearing any other questions. We'll briefly go through some policy items. Tom Wegner wanted to join and be able to talk about milk disposal, but Morgan, if you go to the next slide, we can get through these policy things as we're waiting for Tom to join. So first, we've been hearing a few things on when the USDA announcement was going to be. We heard it was going to be this morning. It sounds like the original proposal that went from USDA to OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, or essentially the White House, was maybe too rich for what the White House was thinking. So those negotiations are happening. We've then heard later that the announcement will now be on Tuesday. So we'll watch here as markets close, or markets are mostly closed, and see if there's an announcement at 5 p.m. Which is when the Corona Task Force meets next. But otherwise, we're hearing like Tuesday will be the announcement, and we're expecting it to be, as far as dairy, somewhat similar to what the Dairy Core program has proposed. We don't know any exact amounts, but direct payments and purchases, true for dairy and true for other commodities. So we shall see. Next slide. And if anyone has more intimate information, please feel free to share. I made Morgan stick an image on each slide. So thanks to Marin. Marin did not build the dairy margin coverage program, so you can't blame him for that. But he did give me the projections at the bottom. So out of Joe Martin from Minnesota State FSA office reminds me that 220 out of we've got about 1,800 dairy farmers, not farms, but some people have 2 farms or 2 bulk tanks that are held separate on some farms. So we've got about 1,800 farmers enrolled in DMC in 2020 in Minnesota. So out of roughly 2,700 farmers that could be eligible, we had a very high sign up, the highest of any major dairy state in the country. Out of the 1,600 5-year participants, you may remember they would have had to pay $100 in 2018. They were reminded to pay $100 at the end of 2019. But 220 of those, or 13%, have not. So these are Dr. Bozik's projections here of what will be paid out per million pounds. So that's about $17,500 per million pounds of milk for 2020. So hopefully we can all do our part to remind people, if they have not, it's about 1 in 10 have not paid their $100 as of this week. They need to go into the FSA office and do that, so that as March and April payouts start to come, they can get those deposited as soon as possible and hopefully help their cash flow. So I'm sure as those checks come out and they'll be wondering where their money is, that will get caught up. But if you have newsletters or information you can share, please just help us be proactive and get the word out that 220 of our 5-year participants have not paid. Next slide, please, Morgan. The Paycheck Protection Program, I've heard from a handful of farmers so far that they were working with their bank to apply. They got not necessarily denied, but informed by their bank that they were out of funding. I know other people that are in process, other people, including myself, already have money in the bank. It sounds like the $250 billion additional is going to come. It's just when and how. The Democrats are also wanting $250 billion for state and local government as well as hospitals, and that's what's holding it up right now. So again, it sounds like there will be more funding added to the Paycheck Protection Program, but just know some farmers got it or are in process, and some farmers won't have access to it probably for another number of weeks. I have not heard the status of the farms without employees or the sole proprietorships, which were delayed a week. I don't know the status of how much they'll be getting, and I haven't heard of anybody who actually got approved for that. So if anyone has info, feel free to share. but I know for those who were counting on it and didn't get approved, that's a big gap compared to the competition, so to speak. Next slide, Morgan. All right, at the state level, and I'm not totally up on this, I was in early discussions with legislators and was hearing lots of different things. We've got 1.25 million for protein purchases, which includes milk. But from what I've heard from people, including Darren, our lobbyist, who I'm not sure if he's on or not, is that meat seems to be the bigger need for the moment. And as a matter of fact, when I reached out to Second Harvest, they said they could only handle $1 million worth of milk purchases because there had been some much bigger numbers thrown around initially, but those were tapered down. So there is 1.25 million approved for all protein purchases, milk being part of that, but we don't have a good idea of what that will be for milk, or yeah, including milk. Also, TFAP money from USDA will be purchasing quite a bit of milk, so there'll be some federal funds, and in other words, our state may not have to fill the gap for Second Harvest to be whole with a W whole in their milk purchases. So that's what we know is happening at the state level. Yesterday on the Minnesota Department of Agriculture update call, Garrett and I were both on there advocating for watching out for our livestock slaughtering sector, and also hoping to expand the beginning farmers tax credit to immediate family members, because with the unfortunate market swings we'll have here, there may be some opportunity that allows people to transfer farms a little easier. And right now, immediate family members cannot do that. So that's kind of the state update. And then do I have one more, Morgan? No, that's it. So any questions or comments on anything I just covered? All right, and I don't know if Mr. Wegner is on at this point. If he is, Tom, feel free to start talking. Again, *6 to get off mute if that's an issue. But any other questions or comments in general, issues we should be looking at, speakers or potential speakers for next week? Anybody have other issues we should talk about, and then we'll let Tom get into milk disposal.
Yeah, this is Dave again. I was just curious if Maren could come up with a number of the percent milk that is had risk management done on it, say between now and for the rest of the year. You know, there's X number.
Dave, between DMC and DRP, we are looking at 35-38% of U.S. milk production is covered for 2020. We have 44 billion pounds in DRP, about 28 billion pounds in DMC.
Plus, there could be some just privately hedged on the board.
Yeah, but I don't have data for that, so yes. But let's say that it's another 7-8% of milk production there. So you're in the low 40s. You're in the low 40s. If that's the case.
Thank you.
Thoughts, questions, or comments? And I know Maren has to jump off, so if you have any other questions for him, we will get to them next week or respond in the interim. Tom Wegner, if you're not on, Morgan will pull an audible and we'll go to Jenna's session next. Hopefully Jenna's ready.
I guess I am going to jump in and be ready. Can I share my camera too, so that way I can like smile at everybody? I'll try. If it works, great. If not, whatever. But this was something that we've been kind of noodling on, I guess, so to speak, for the last couple of weeks with, you know, first the closing of schools and then Minnesota's first stay-at-home order and kind of all the negativity that has happened. And I know on a, you know, a personal farmer level, we've kind of felt that too, that stress that unknown, that uncertainty. And I think, you know, if you guys know me, I'm kind of a bubbly person, kind of a little spark plug, and I like to have fun and focus on the positive. And I think that's something that we really need to be intentional about as we go forward, just in this, in the next few days, weeks, months, year. And I would challenge you all to share a little bit of your bright side moment. What's happening that's good in your life? What are you looking forward to? Because I think we can get really bogged down by all the negativity in the news and the uncertainty and whatnot. So I guess really I just want you guys to kind of share what are some of those bright sides that are happening. So for me, my bright side tonight is it's family game night, and I have been told by my oldest that, Mom, be ready to play, Ticket to Ride, because I'm going to beat you. So we've got some friendly competition going on later this evening, and I'm really looking forward to that. Fun little escape. So whoever wants to come off mute, please share your story or just what's going good in your life. Share your bright side. Oh, the weather forecast. I love that too. Sorry, someone's going to talk. Go ahead.
It's just me, Jenna. Hi, everybody. I'm going on video outside because my bright side is this forecast as well. Thumbs up on that. Can't wait to do some yard work, some rock picking this weekend. Yes, I'm excited to rock pick because we have some school-age kids that need to go rock picking. So hooray for that. And hi, everybody. It's good to see your faces, those of you that are on video.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. I think this weather forecast is something that a lot of us are looking forward to. Anyone else want to hop off and say, oh, wow, Garrett got his fingers and toes painted on Sunday. All the colors of the rainbow. That's awesome. Bob says a physical distance bicycle ride with a couple of brothers tomorrow. Oh, it looks like you're going to have great weather there, Bob. That's awesome. Turkey hunting season. I like it, George. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Kathy Munger's gonna go golfing tomorrow. I hear the golf courses are opening in Minnesota. Some of them.
Hooray for golf. I know a couple dairy farmers that are taking their kids golfing tomorrow, so excited to get out of their house.
That's awesome. Hey, Shelly, it looks like you're on video. I see you. Looks like Morgan's going to help her brother remodel his new house. Oh, that will be a lot of fun. So good luck with that, Morgan. Anyone else have some bright sides or even just some, you know, good things that have been happening in their community? Because I don't know if Tom is on yet or not. Looks like Marianne's youngest son has a tea time for tomorrow. That's awesome. Another golfer.
I'm going to do a shout out to Marianne right now, actually. Thank you for your work with the community relief grants. Those that aren't familiar with it, Midwest Dairy did community relief grants getting food shelves refrigeration, just like Charles had talked about. But Marianne reached out to their local network who actually had some needs in a few other communities. So we were able to spread the love to 3 other food shelves because she referred them on. So thank you, Marianne.
Way to go, Marianne. You rocked. So giving you a round of applause and a big thumbs up. So way to go. It looks like Lucas is, he's going to be ready for some basketball. 2 basketball hoops for $5 and 1 for 4 bags of cheese curds. That's awesome. I played basketball at lunch today, and I kind of got my butt kicked by a 6-year-old. So it's a good thing we're at a stay-at-home order, so maybe I can practice a little bit more during my lunch hours. Let's just say that. And Shelly's got all of her closets clean. Lagoon's almost empty. That's always a definite positive thing. 2 more days to go. Anybody else? Because it does look like Tom is on.
Yep, I'm on.
Oh, wow, Curtis, this is amazing. Investors Community Bank was able to fund around 100 million of PPP funds to secure around 10,000 jobs with dairy farmers and commercial businesses. Way to go. That is terrific. Thanks for sharing that. That's just amazing. It's fun to see everybody like stepping up to the plate and just, you know, that's, yeah, I'm like at a loss for words. Thank you. Marianne worked with a great cheese distribution. And Tom, just so you know, we're kind of giving a bright side. So sharing, if you want anything good that has happened recently, you know, what you're looking forward to. So we'll give it another minute here. And if not, maybe we'll turn it over to you from there. But thanks everybody for sharing your bright side. Again, I think if we can kind of focus on the positive and look at all the things that we've been blessed with, it's going to really make a difference in all of our lives. So keep smiling, keep sharing the good news, and keep just doing the amazing things that all of you are doing for our dairy industry. And with that, Tom, I guess, or Lucas, I'll turn it over to you or turn it over to Tom. Either one.
No, I'll just briefly say thanks, Jenna. Hopefully we were intending to end with something positive, but even better that it's in the middle because Tom's talk will probably not be all that uplifting. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Anyway, again, we had a request to just learn about milk disposal, the regional situation, maybe the economics of it at the plant level. I asked Tom just this morning because I was trying to look for a third-party person so that they could kind of give a big picture view, but Tom has gracefully agreed. So Tom, I'll turn it over to you. Please cover anything you wish to cover on milk disposal. And again, if you guys have questions on this or other topics, I've seen what a few people have written for next week in the chat box. We will work on that. Please do that. Thank you, Tom.
Lucas, remind me not to have you introduce me ever again. Thank you. No, so about milk disposal, certainly not a topic anyone wants to talk about. Let me just set the regional context, and you all get it. I mean, the idea that food service has been destroyed in some respects. We're trying to switch to a retail distribution network as much as we can, which actually is going quite well. But there's a lot of product that simply isn't going to be going into that food service channel, that restaurant, that institutional, be it schools, be it colleges, etc. So we've had to redirect, and frankly, you add that to the seasonal flush, which is occurring in different stages and different times of an April and May. You're going to have some milk that may not be able to find a home to be processed. And believe me, I think there's many efforts to try to redirect milk through the donations programs, moving programs or moving milk to plants that can put milk up for donation. No one's disagreeing with that. But we do have circumstances. We had a circumstance out in our butter plant in Pennsylvania where we had our operator actually get sick on a shift, and the individual that took over for the operator didn't shut down the dryer properly, so we had a plug, we had a backlog, and that ended up with some milk on the ground. We haven't really, I mean, I think, let me state it even more cleanly than that. I think we actually did some cream stripping. Being a big butter manufacturer, we take cream and then the skim either is held for later or it's disposed of. So in a nutshell, we're trying to be as creative as we can to avoid putting milk on the ground. Certainly you've heard the stories about DFA, and I didn't hear I'm not trying to make, I mean, DFA handles a lot of milk all over the country, and they've had to put some milk on the ground. Certainly we're trying to do some different things around working with our customers. At Land O'Lakes, about half the milk we procure is sold to third-party customers. Some of those third-party customers are food service oriented product makers. They are the ones who are also saying, hey, how about you not bring this milk in? As you know, it's an everyday event. We are actually doing some things around, maybe we take some cheese back. Milk is moving in many, many different directions. But maybe to summarize here and not belabor it and maybe take some questions, from my understanding, it's the East where we're having some of the biggest issues right now. I'm sure the Midwest is going to feel some of that because some of the milk moves to the Midwest from the East. California, at this point, we haven't heard a lot around that, but there's definitely some possibilities out there as well, as food service customers literally push back and say we can't take this milk. So that's a real rough overview, Lucas, and certainly willing to take questions about a topic that nobody wants to have to talk about in terms of where it's going.
Thanks, Tom. Questions for Tom, and again, to my knowledge, the reporters keep asking and are just waiting to write the story about milk being dumped in Minnesota. Not that it's really any solace, but we're able to say that within our borders it's not happening. I know our co-ops are affected, even if milk dumping isn't happening here. So if you have different knowledge, please let me know. But any questions for Tom, comments on disposal in general?
This is Christine. Can I just comment about what's going on with DFA in Wisconsin? So that division over there that we're dealing with, it's the eastern part of Wisconsin, down a little bit into the southeast part of Wisconsin. We have been told, we just had a meeting on Monday, that in the coming week, we are going to be at 18% overproduction. So that is definitely the area that within the central area, if DFA is giving us the most heartburn.
And I guess it's not disposal. The only other thing I can add, and Maren has done kind of the crowdsourcing research. I know there's been a lot of letters from private companies. I know there's base programs being instituted at several co-ops, but I know in Wisconsin, the largest I've seen is Grande asking everyone to cut 20%. I think that was as of 2 days ago, as of Wednesday, for 2 months. No guarantee of milk price, just saying you may not ship more than 80% of what you shipped. I think it's last month. And Lactalis, select milk producers down in the Southwest are instituting a base program, and I'm forgetting one more kind of major private processor, but 10% is what I've seen across the board, with some 15%, and then Grande at 20.
And Lucas, I'll just add in there that Southeast Milk Inc. Out of Florida primarily, a big supplier of the bottling market in Florida. They have sent out a letter, I believe it was of last week. I think it was an 82% of the March base is what they will purchase. So they're very much feeling like they're going to be oversubscribed with milk. Let me just say one other thing from a regulatory point of view, that the federal milk orders, the administrators across the country have made the statement that the milk will be allowed to be pooled at the class 4 level, the lowest priced class. That doesn't get us anywhere near a whole, as you all know, because what that'll allow you to do is if the PPD is advantageous, to draw that PPD. But those of us who are in the upper Midwest knows those are more nickels and dimes in terms of that value than they are quarters, 50-cent pieces, much less dollars. So that's but one approach. I know there's some discussions in the federal assistance programs, and I don't think they're receiving a lot of. I haven't heard lately where the disposal discussions are coming out. Lucas, maybe you have some more insights there. But it hasn't been something that's been warmly received in some cases. There was a hope that we would expand the FSA WIP program to include milk disposed of due to COVID-19. So,
Tom,
is there any anything implemented in regards to Land O'Lakes with any cutbacks or any baseline type milk that you know of?
We are still executing our base program in light of this imbalance. So nothing new at this point. I'm not at a luxury to explain the details across the regions, but it certainly is in play, and we've let our producers know that it will be in play. And I know I have some of my member owners on the line here, and they're very well aware of it.
Yeah, I guess maybe this will tie it all together, and feel free to speak after me, but we learned on our all-staff call this week, it turned out not being a problem because Midwest Dairy was there, but our colleague Ashley, who works down in Arkansas, the Little Rock School District did, I think, to simplify it, didn't really want to distribute milk and was going to look for a waiver to just switch to water. So that's the sort of kind of pressure that we are up against. Ashley and actually some of her colleagues stepped in and said, hey, this is why milk's important. If you're worried about getting nutrition to kids, this is probably the best nutrition packed way to do it. And they're still using milk, but there were council level discussions on the school board to get rid of milk for the time being. So I know lots of areas of the country are looking at that, but we've been able to, I think, be there through our wins of having people there in the past. I got a question for those of you familiar with Land O'Lakes or DFA. Do both of the co-ops support, they thought they heard you support payment for milk dumping? Is that what both of your kind of official company stances are? Payment, I'm assuming, is what the question's asking.
Yeah, I'll go first there. I think within the National Milk Producers Federation proposal that we're working on, we did advocate that there would be some reimbursement for dumped milk. Agreed.
Christine, or can anyone speak to DFA? I assume it's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And any of the milk that is being dumped right now by DFA, the farmers are getting paid for that.
All right, anything else this week? So far I've gotten requests. Oh, David Winand, thank you. 4 p.m. today, there's a milk cooler grant due. So if you are a school board member or can get your school in touch to apply for the milk cooler grant, they're due at 4 p.m. today, and David supplied the link in the chat box there. But as far as requests that I've received this week in the comments here, I'll try to get Laura Lemke, Executive Director of the Minnesota Grain and Feed Association. I'll try to get someone from the pork industry. I know that David Preisler is up to his ears in work. I learned this morning that they are moving to kill piglets on several farms just for lack of processing and allowing them not to move animals. So unfortunately that is happening in that industry, which with the situation is probably not surprising, just super unfortunate. I also, Dr. Schutz, I don't want to steal your thunder, but we heard from Bev Durgan yesterday on the Department of Agriculture call, and we learned that county fairs are still willing to go. There's 4 in June. Extension events have at this point been canceled through June, but they're just working. But Dr. Schutz said this morning, hopefully I'm not saying anything I shouldn't, Mike, but they had a 50-50 chance of returning for classes in the fall, he thought, at this moment. So that's how serious it's being taken in academia, and that's making, we heard yesterday, lab work and research very difficult for both state and federal entities as well as our university compatriots. So anyway, that's an update from the situation that I've learned. Thanks for all of your input and questions.